New leagues expanding, and even fake leagues too. Plus, Major League Soccer joins Open Cup Round 3, and there's some juicy matchups to take in. That and more on Friday's edition of Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show you found your way to, Morning Kickaround, the show that dots the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. How you feeling? And good morning to you out there. My name Robert Kerr, local soccer guy to my side. My partner, radio soccer guy, Jason Davis. How you feeling?
Feeling good. Already seeing the besties. Sorry, the besties. I got my things mixed up. My ultras.
Too many shows.
I see the ultras are checking in this morning. Shout out to Cool Will, who became a member in the pre-show. That's good. Tulsa Mario is here. Shout out to him. Our guy Dwayne is here. I mentioned I put him up on the screen earlier. Homeless Shoe. Callan checking in from Central New York. If you want to check in from like where you're watching the show, that's in the dot the map spirit. That's something we do on this show. We dot the map with people all over the country, American soccer fans, the true believers in the power and the future and the potential of American soccer. Some of us are such believers that we're pitching ideas for whole new leagues, Rob. That's coming up. That's coming up on the show.
Yeah, we got college mergers, expansion leagues, made-up leagues, all sorts of leagues here on Friday's edition. No producer Jenny, but want to tip of the hat to her. She's got Tigers opening day duty, so an exciting day in a different sport, but big time event here in the Detroit area. Welcome all in, Ultras. It's great to have you with us here live on Friday. If you are looking to support the show and you don't know how, you can simply tell a friend, hit subscribe, become an MK Ultra for just a few bucks a month. And by becoming an Ultra, you get your comments live on screen during these streams. They have, you guys have access to bonus content. We make bonus videos for you guys and make some of our videos exclusively available to just you guys, and then access to the Morning Kickaround Discord server, which has great threads from anywhere from the local team in your backyard all the way up through the USLs, the MLSs, the NWSLs, the national teams, and more. So a great community growing and thriving there. Even a thread on MK Ultra's channel members who are creating their own teams. Some have already done so, and some in the journey as we are right now. Check out Wednesday streamers. We have MK Ultras involved in Forest Park Rangers. We had Tom Franklin, the soccer zombie, on Wednesday. So after this, go back and check that out. Launching a club for 2027. So they are in the midst of their journey, but has started well so far. Good morning, Kate, playing French horn. Morning, Schmelzer. Great to have you on board. One of the most supportive MK Ultras, Ryan. And then my guy, CD Gobjects. Happy Easter to you. I learned a random statistic, on like drive time radio in the morning. Apparently, Michigan is the most avid Easter candy purchasing state. Who knew?
Wow. Yeah, you guys go in hard on the what is that? Cadbury eggs? I don't know. You're English. You probably do that.
See, I don't like Cadbury eggs. I don't even know what they're called, but the mini eggs that are solid chocolate with like the crunchy shell on the outside. Now that's legit Easter.
Like the malt ball eggs. Is that what we're talking about? Kind of.
I guess I'm not sure if it's malt, but they're one of the Easter traditions back when I was very young when we did Easter was make kind of like a bird's nest out of like chocolate and cereal of some sort, and then put the chocolate eggs with the crispy shell on the inside. And that was a fun treat.
That's a move I did not know. We just did baskets with like the fake grass and the the chocolate and all that kind of stuff.
Same thing, but edible. But not fake grass is not so edible.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. I'm not in for the peeps. I'm not a peeps guy. You a peeps guy? You a peepsman?
Oh, I am very far away from a peepman.
No peepsmans. Okay. All right. Well, that's good. I'm glad we established that. Vote in the chat if you like peeps. Tell us right now if you love yourself some peeps. Maybe we need some MK themed peeps, some branded peeps from Morning Kickaround. That's great. Yeah.
Like a sunrise, or even a Friends Peck and Power rooster in peep form.
We're in the kind of motif, right? With Friends Peck and Power and the rooster and the chickens and eggs, that kind of thing. We're in there. We're in there.
So ahead on the show, we got some fun stuff. We have a guest at the top of the hour from the APSL, an amateur league rapidly expanding across the country. We're going to talk about the MLS versus lower league matchups in the Open Cup, what's happening on the college soccer front. But we're going to lead the way with a returning character, a Instagram influencer, LinkedIn magnate.
Let's figure it out together, Rob. Us and the Ultras and our viewers today, we're going to figure this out together. Yes.
All right, so let's get right into it. Let's kick off Friday's edition of Morning Kick Around. Let's hit those long balls. Is starting a soccer league similar to starting a tech startup? Well, returning to the show with a new addition, Brian York. He is doing a tech startup social media influencing campaign to make a team called Mass Rising into a reality. And the latest development from his camp is a league pitch. The American Pro League was released on us, and we're going to cast a skeptical eye on what that might be.
Wait, hold on. Let's get some information before we decide where we land on the spectrum of skepticism.
Fair enough. A little stilted from the start. My apologies.
Although I do think you're right. I think we're a little biased because we've already talked about Brian. He's not a new character on Morning Kick Around. This is a return engagement for Brian. Look at the big brain on Brian. He is doing something that on the surface looks very exciting. He's tapping into excitement around the beautiful game, Rob. And what do we say? Dot the map, right? We are dot the map evangelists on this show.
We're dotting the map with leagues now.
More teams, more fans, more players, more stuff. Give us more. We want more. Abundance is the word we like to use here on Morning Kick Around. But it is abundance with caveats. Like, we don't advocate for vaporware soccer. We don't advocate for soccer teams that don't look like they have any substance, and soccer leagues further. Now, we might miss some points, and we did go through this website. I'm sharing on the screen right now the massrising.com website. This is pro soccer. It says Massachusetts 2027, locally owned, founding list open. It identifies 1,700 founding supporters on their website.
That's a lot.
Now, I don't know how much those founding supporters are contributing, although I will come to another post by our friend Brian where he makes some claims about amounts of money that he has raised. Mm-hmm. Massachusetts loves soccer. It's never had a club that loves it back. That changes now. First of all, why are the New England Revolution catching strays for Brian York? Or even look, we've got a new women's team, Boston Legacy. There's previous women's teams, the Boston Breakers. There were teams back in the NASL. Those teams didn't love New England back. I don't know.
Apparently not, according to our guy here, Brian.
I mean, first of all, you're launching a team. You're taking a shot. It takes a lot of work to do this. I respect anybody who's really going into this for the right reasons and trying to figure out how to make soccer work in their communities. And we are supporters of launching clubs, again, with sort of the proper framework around it. We just talked about Forest Park in St. Louis this week. It's incredible stuff with our guy, Tom. It is wild to put in your what we stand for football worth watching, high press attacking mindset. We'd rather lose 3-2 than draw 0-0 before you step on the field, Rob. Before you sign the player, Rob.
They're taking L's on the pitch deck. That's pretty wild.
Oh, man. Okay, anyway, we did all of this. This is not new. This is Brian, by the way, there. As you can see, he's trying to handle. He actually seems to have some soccer chops. I've seen him juggling a mini ball. He clearly knows what he's doing with the ball at his feet. He's not some carpet bagging non-soccer guy, which probably makes it easier for him to sell this, right? He can speak to at least some experience in the game. And I think we even looked into his background a little bit. He might have family from abroad, that kind of thing, right? So you can see some of these posts and the updates, and you can see the timeline. Now, community listening. Q1 2026. That's now. Hiring a staff. Okay. Player trials happening in Q2. Stadium announcement Q3. Crest and kit reveal Q4. First match 2027. Now, when we saw this, Rob, what did we conclude? He even had some posts about meeting with USL figures, right? We thought, hey, maybe this is a guy trying to launch like a League One team, right? Is that what you concluded as well?
Yeah, I think that's where we landed. I mean, he's talking about like a lot of his posts have to do with like I met this person, I talked to that person, we raised X amount of money, and amongst those updates was meeting with USL, other club leaders, and I think he might have referenced the league itself, but we maybe assumed to a degree that it was USL League One that he was shooting for.
Okay, so that was and look, again, even if that was kind of faking it till you make it, I kind of understood. Maybe you just want to get some momentum. If you don't have the seed money yourself, you need to attract investors. Maybe this is putting this out there in the idea that you're going to attract some interest around soccer, and then you go talk to USL. And again, I've checked in on the Instagram for Mr. York, and he's got posts from a while back that says he went out to Orange County and met with Orange County SC people and learned about developing players. Oh, and also there's one video where he's at a desk in what looks like a co-working space and says 10 minutes to kill before a meeting with USL. Whether he was bullshitting or not, I don't know, but he said he was meeting with USL.
Yeah.
The most recent development is this.
Bum, bum, bum.
ProLeague.com. Built for clubs, built for communities, a new model for professional soccer in America where the match day is electric, the community comes first, and every club is built to last. Okay. I'm going to say something here. My wife, my wonderful wife, has decided that she wants to jump into the social media game. She has a keen interest in helping people plan their retirements. All right. It's not my bag. I hate all that stuff, but I understand it's important. I'm helping her with her social media presence, right? And some of you may have even seen it because I've shared it on a couple of things I do. She's really good at it. What we're all not good at is making things from scratch when we have limited time. And we live in the world of AI, Rob. AI is pressing itself and its presence into our lives. I don't think anybody should use it to write things that you publish as if you wrote them yourselves. Don't do that. That will offend Jason Davis, the writer. Go read my newsletter, Jason Davis, Soccer Eagle. I just posted this morning about the
You type those words out all by yourself?
All by myself. Every single word crafted by this brain. You might think it's all crap, but at least I crafted it with my brain.
Came from a brain.
But when it comes to coding websites, I know almost nothing. Neither does my wife. Or coding certain things. And there are tools out there. Claude has proven to be good, and you'll see soccer people using it for data viz and stuff like that, right? This is 100% an AI-produced website. I'm not even saying that as a criticism. I am just pointing out that if we're talking about somebody who seems to be faking it till maybe he makes it, and I'm not even saying this is all a scam. I think that's too far to go, but it certainly feels like this is way out ahead of anything real. This is basically saying, first, I want to start a club, and I'm going to attract some investors. Oh, and maybe this isn't working the way I want, or maybe I can't get to where I want on the timeline I want with the USL. They're not interested. So what am I going to do? Apparently, the thing everybody in American soccer does eventually, create a league, or at least conceive of a league, Rob. And here we are. Here we are with a new league. Do we need a new league?
I mean, here we go. We got another one here. It talks about he wants this to be the American Pro League, designed to be a community asset, not just a team, but a platform for growth, connection, and opportunity. And
yes, everything has that veneer of, as you said, tech startup. Trying to scare up investment. Like, let me bring up this piece of evidence. Okay, so. That was the website. We'll go back to that. This is a post from Brian. As it says there under his name, Founder Mass Rising, which again, barely exists. Exists as a website, exists as an idea as far as we can tell. He's kind of teased looking at stadiums. These are generally high school-ish football stadiums in Massachusetts. This is 2 months ago, but somebody posted this on Blue Sky yesterday as this was making the rounds. Like Mike Pendleton posted this. It says, a month ago, I started working on launching a new pro soccer team in Massachusetts. Here's what happened in 30 days. Closed a $2 million seed round, 50% toward year one operating costs, 30% towards league entry and market activation, 20% towards field stadium strategy. Spoke with 15 current team owners to understand the opportunity. Cold LinkedIn message only, no warm intros, 95% response rate. Only Hearts of Pine didn't respond, and he makes a sad face. Name the team. It's a placeholder and will change, so don't hold him to Mass Rising, by the way. Committing early, helped thinking through brand strategy and vision, evaluated stadium options, long-term, build from scratch. Look, if this is I wish to have a soccer team, I want to make this happen, and this is what Brian knows how to do. Again, I want to be careful not to just toss everything out and say it's all garbage. But Brian, like, why would I believe any of this? Everything you present is about the presentation, not the substance, right? Have you seen? We haven't seen anything. And again, to launch a league, if you know anything about the history of soccer in America, if you hear somebody's launching a league, you are 100% going to be skeptical, because how many leagues have come and gone? How many leagues are we dealing with now? And I'm not talking about amateur. We're going to talk amateur leagues today. That's different, right? Barrier to entry is very low. We're getting together with a bunch of guys who want to create leagues so that we can have people to play. We've got pockets in St. Louis and Kansas City with the Midwest Premier League. We're going to talk about another new league that's doing the same things. Those are gaps that need to be filled. You know what doesn't need to be filled? The professional level again. Not unless you really, really know what you're doing. Not unless you really do have the buy-in of people who have been around and have done this or understand what this is. 6 founding clubs, 20-game season, March to October.
Yeah, so can you scroll down to the 3 pillars section? Yeah, this is the interesting point, because I hate to admit it, there's a couple of good points here. Because I think that the 20-game schedule thing is a legit benchmark to have that bridge league idea that we were talking about with the League for Clubs Pro-Am thing, where it's like somewhere in between an amateur summer league.
But if this is real, okay, is the build the team or the build the league, Brian? Because if you are serious, there are already people trying to do. Now, again, is this because it needs to be professional? So if it's not professional, it's not legit, or if it's not professional, you can't attract the money you want to bring in.
That's probably it,
right? If you're if you care about the game and you want to build something, then you call up Dennis Crowley, especially if you're in the general region. I don't know how far where he wants to play is from Kingston Stockade, but at least you could call up League for Clubs and talk to Dennis Crowley. And maybe he did. He doesn't mention talking to Dennis Crowley. He mentions talking to professional clubs, right? He mentions talking to USL and all these other things. Like, this is swinging for the fences, to mix my metaphors, when you should be trying to bunt. And this is why we get so frustrated with American soccer, because people don't see the value in building small. Dennis Crowley does. League for Clubs does. I give credit to the amateur leagues like Midwest Premier League and some of the others. They do, right? Their goal isn't, we want 50,000 in a stadium in 5 years. When you start talking like that, I'm just not going to buy in to what you're selling me, because everything is just an idea, and ideas are cheap. Ideas are great. We need them, but ideas are cheap. I talk, again, going back to my wife and this social media project she's engaged in. She'll throw out an idea and I go, well, that's going to take 6 hours a week. Do we have 6 hours a week to do that? Like, let's think about the 2 sides of this. Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. This is cheap talk. For me right now, this is cheap talk.
Yeah, to get in that same vein, to go from working on a club to then jumping straight into this with their seemingly no achievements or like solid. It's like, okay, we have a team, a launch point, and this and that, but then build a league. There wasn't even that end point. Then build a league. It's like, that's a lot to take on all at once. Is like, poof, team. And then plan, be part of the plan to start a league. You mentioned his timeline of the, all the different achievements he wanted for strictly just one club, Mass Rising. And he didn't necessarily hit those 2026 benchmarks with hiring a team and having open tryouts and all that stuff. But then there was nothing in that timeline from just a month or two ago about starting a new league. So, I mean, right. He kind of maybe, and then to your point of going small is, that doesn't invest, $2 million of investment, right? If you're like, oh, I want a small local team and we're going to, do a nice little thing and grow
Right.
from the ground up.
Which again, like soccer clubs, professional clubs need to be businesses to survive. So they have to have business principles at heart or they won't exist and then we won't have them to support. But if from the very start, everything about how you intend to launch a club is based around this idea of collecting as much money as possible, right? Again, that's not going to send a message that you're quote unquote in it for the right reasons. Like again, behind the scenes, running a business, very important. Figure out how to make that business work. But this performative, investor focused startup vision, all of that rings hollow as hell. All of that rings fake, right? So again, there's a middle ground here, and I'm not going to say I know exactly where it is, but it ain't this. This is the wrong end of the spectrum. Right? This is the wrong end where you're just doing things to look cool. On the idea, I guess, that you'll convince people to give you money. Right? And I want to believe that soccer clubs can pop up in America wherever we want them.
Yeah.
Right? I want to believe that that's a thing we can get to. Maybe we're not there. And what is maybe real about this, or the commentary that comes out of this, if you read this a certain way, as again, I am extremely skeptical about Brian York and what he's trying to build because the way he's doing it. The thing you can say is, where is the place for somebody who just wants to start a team at the kind of level Brian is aiming for? Because that league is local. I mean, it's not like he's saying, I'm going to start a national league. He's not Scott Michaels or whatever his name was, right? He's not doing some bullshit that is too impossible to believe. At least it's sort of local. There's got to be a place, right? And so we have a D1 that is Major League Soccer, and it costs $500 million just to have a conversation. Then we've got a USL that is a closed shop, right? That is their shop. Now you can pitch them, and you might be able to get into League One, and you could certainly launch a League Two amateur team that's playing developmental soccer if you want, with the idea of going Fort Wayne, for example. You can do that, but people might not love the idea of being sort of locked into the corporate structure that is USL, particularly the way that the money flows in USL, which we've covered a lot on this show. And then after that, what is there, right? Leagues for Club is trying to fill that gap by going with a semi-pro model. UPSL is effectively semi-pro, but plays on a different schedule and has hundreds of clubs that are all doing very different things. If you want to focus your energy and find a way to create a higher level of amateur that leads into pro, that is community based, there needs to be a way to do that. I don't know if this is it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Brian York and American Pro League and Mass Rising, and see how that all develops. Before we move on, Kate, one of our MK Ultras, love to start a team, even have a name picked out. So I would recommend, Kate, either watch the interview with Tom on Wednesday's episode or go into the Ultras Making Clubs thread on the Discord, and you can get information on how to do just that. All right, let's move on and talk about new league in the college world before I get to the top of the hour here. I'm Morning Kick Around. To college soccer now. The Big West and Pac-12 Conference have announced a collaborative soccer partnership starting in 2026. Pac-12 Commissioner Teresa Gould says, by working together, our conferences are ensuring stability of men's soccer programs across the region. We bring this up because back in October 2025, U.S. Soccer and the Next Gen College Soccer Committee published a white paper with, a big proposals to overhaul the American college soccer system, and Q1, we were supposed to get a reply, nothing yet. So we want to examine this cooperative agreement combining Big West and Pac-12 soccer to keep a sustainable platform for teams at the D1 level out in the West.
Yeah, so this is interesting in light of the next gen plan, right? And what we thought might be happening. And I even so Rob came to me, or Rob threw it in our Slack as we planned the show, and said, do we want to talk about the fact that the college plan hasn't nothing's happened, right? We don't even have an NCAA response to this, right? Is that my
No.
understanding? The NCAA has never officially addressed what U.S. Soccer threw out with the next gen plan for college soccer, right? And we went through it not line by line, but pretty damn close as to what U.S. Soccer is trying to do. Because they announced they were going to do a white paper. Then it didn't come and didn't come and didn't come. We asked them where it was. Finally, they dropped it in October of 2025, mid-October, right? We went through it. We read the paper. We thought about, okay, is this the kind of thing that will help college soccer? Is this the kind of thing that will benefit the game in the United States? Is it the kind of thing that U.S. Soccer should be taking on? We talked about all those questions, and then we sat there and we waited, and other things happened, and we got distracted, and we moved on, and nothing happened, and nothing happened, and nothing happened. And now here we are, and it is April now of 2026, and still we don't really know what in the NCAA thinks about it. And now the Pac-12 and the Big West are announcing a partnership, which seems to indicate to me nothing's coming out of next gen, because why would you do that? Now, maybe that's just for this season and everything else, but as chess pieces get moved around in college sports, Rob, it's not an indication that there's going to be major changes to the structures of college soccer.
No, there isn't. And they don't have in their press release, they don't give a date on like how many years that this agreement is going forth, but they basically wanted to make something that they said sustainable, so that kind of implies longevity. But for the 2026 season, teams like California Baptist, Cal Poly, UC Riverside, and UC San Diego will compete as affiliate members in the Pac-12, joining full-time conference members Oregon State, Gonzaga, and San Diego State. And it looks like there will be another side to this with UC Santa Barbara, UC Irvine, Cal State Fullerton, Utah Valley, CSUN Sacramento State, and Cal State Bakersfield making up the Big West. So these two conferences will implement a scheduling collaboration featuring crossover matches between member institutions of both conferences.
Yeah, I was but I think before Rob brought this to the table, I had seen the Big West news with the Pac-12, and I had been just kind of on YouTube, and I'm not a big shorts watcher. I don't watch a ton of shorts on YouTube, but occasionally I do, and occasionally I check in, and obviously we're in the business of making content, so you take your cues from other people. And I saw one of the big soccer content creators on YouTube, whose name I can't remember now. He's huge, right? Huge, way bigger than us, was doing one of these very produced videos where he talks kind of like this. This big change coming to American soccer could change everything. It was very dramatic. And he was basically saying, like, American soccer is going to be the new ground for recruiting players for big clubs abroad. And he tied it to the next gen program. He tied it to the next gen idea that was dropped by U.S. Soccer. And I thought, and I don't know what the timing was on this video, but the fact I was seeing it this week indicated to me it must be fairly new. So this soccer content creator is talking about this thing that hasn't happened and has seen no movement. Now, and I'm not even really being overly critical of him, although I think that if you are, if you're looking at something that dropped months ago that hasn't actually happened, you're kind of doing a little bit of bait and switch. But man, yeah, it was kind of like, what is going on with this, and where are we? And apparently nowhere.
I sat in on the State of the League for USL2, which is 90-something% players are Division I soccer players, and that the changing of the schedule in college soccer has a huge impact on how they operate. And in their meeting, they expected a reply in the first quarter as well. So there was some expectations by various stakeholders across the soccer landscape expecting some sort of information, and nothing has come as of yet, 3 days beyond the end of Q1 in 2026. So we'll see how that plays out. Is this, one step closer to, or one step along a trend for different conferences just figuring it out themselves? Because part of that plan was, making like mega conferences and kind of a pro rel tier within the various regions across the United States. And then, maybe they're kind of setting up their own D1 tier in the Western region of the United States themselves, with the response of the powers that be moving along pretty slowly. But do you have anything else to tap onto that?
I'm being admonished here by US Latinos that I should be careful about referencing other YouTubers. I'm actually not. I'm being that I respect that YouTuber for what I can. I don't even have his name, so I'm not even calling him out. And it's honestly I don't remember it. It's not, and that's probably says more about me and my memory than it does about him and his content. He seems to be doing very very well, and yeah, I would love to have his audience. So I'm not trying to start any drama like last time.
Yeah, I went on yeah, we'll say I went on vacation, came back, and there was all sorts of drama popping off. But while we wait for our guest to join us here, a couple updates. I saw one of our ultras mention the MK Ultra kits. That's in the process. It's going a little slower than we had initially thought, but with vacations and stuff like that, it is in the works. And we will let you know when those are in the mail being sent out to you. We couldn't be happier with those MK Ultra kits. If you haven't seen them, check them out on the MK Ultra store. The first run of those is happening pretty much as we speak right now. Those are still available. And once we hit the mark of at least 20 or 30 more shirts, we'll do a second run there. But those who ordered that first run have a special first edition Easter egg on them. So I can't wait to see everyone's reactions to that. And then please, whenever you guys get any gear or the Morning Kick Around kits, put them in the Morning Kick Around Discord server. We love to see that. And did you see I posted some pictures of me local pickup soccer game last night? I hosted a supporters meet and greet, socialize, and pickup game. So if you're in the Morning Kick Around Discord server in the local, you'll see a sweaty version of Rob up in there. And before we move on to our guest too, also want to say a shout out to our fans, Roger and the other River Guards out in Boise. The countdown to kickoff is finally almost counted all the way down. Home opener out in Boise, Idaho, Saturday, tomorrow. So excited for all those guys to do that. It looks like they're really building something exciting out there. And we have a whole playlist of countdown to kickoff topics there.
I want to address this from Yoris Gene. Okay. Anyway, how do I renew my membership? There's a membership tab on the YouTube channel. So go to youtube.com/@morningkickaround. You should be able to click that and figure out where your membership is. That's my best guidance on that. And let us know. Yuri. Thank you very much, Yuri.
All right. Our guest is waiting in the wings for us. So let's take a sip of our coffee and come right back. Get to know the APSL here on Morning Kick Around. Get to know here on Morning Kick Around. We're getting to know various leagues across the United States. We talked Midwest Premier League earlier in the week, but a league that has expanded from the East to the West, the APSL, the American Premier Soccer League, has really grown in the Midwest and on the East Coast. And to learn more about it and its goals, we have Director of Marketing and one of the conference commissioners, Nolan Bear, on the show. Welcome to Morning Kick Around, sir.
Hey, good morning, guys. Great to talk to you. Great to talk with you today.
Welcome to the show, Nolan. This is an ongoing process of, I know Rob's a little bit more tied into this because he's got connections to some local teams there in Michigan. But for me, learning about this level of American soccer has been illuminating. I mean, I've been so focused on professional soccer and the U.S. men's national team, and to see these leagues and clubs popping up to fill this space has been interesting. So give us a kind of a thumbnail sketch on where APSL sort of fits into all of the stuff happening in American soccer.
Yeah, for sure. American soccer is as you're learning, a very convoluted space for sure, compared to the world game. So APSL is a bit unique in that we're the only league across the country that creates promotion relegation agreements with other leagues. That is something unique. And you see that conversation come up with a lot with USL and the recent expansion that having Premier and trying to create that pro rel at the top level. So APSL, one of our main pillars is about sustainability, affordability, and bringing it really local for clubs. So we try to create conferences within a certain time radius. This is really for, emerging semi-pro / high-level amateur clubs. And we create these conferences across the U.S. In different metropolitan and suburban areas. Ultimately, we create the conferences in a way that has a sustainable national playoff structure, and we're trying to build that from the ground up. On the pro rel side, we have a bunch of partner leagues, if you will, that all promote into our conferences, and then we relegate teams back the other way.
Well, that's interesting. And it's interesting that you're tying leagues to each other, because there's a lot of fiefdoms in the American soccer landscape and a lot of communication or collaboration between various entities at that level of the league. And one of the big reasons why I want to have you on, I'm based here in Michigan, and there wasn't any APSL presence here just last year, but now there's an entire division here in Michigan, and I see that there's other new divisions on the East Coast. Can you kind of walk us through how this happened and the reason for this sudden mass expansion?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a bit of background. APSL used to be the EPSL, Eastern Premier Soccer League. That league was founded about 6-7 years ago, born out of some of the top leagues in the Northeast wanting to create a conference above their local league. So started with the Cosmopolitan League, and then there were leagues in Maryland as well, and the Philly area, that ultimately said, hey, we want to create a league that's going to be for our best teams, and they compete against each other in the postseason and have a national playoff. So that started about 6 years ago. Recently, in the last 2 years, we ran it from Eastern Premier Soccer League to American Premier Soccer League, and then started moving from beyond the East to other areas of the country. Started out with 4 conferences. Now we're up to 8, probably be opening 9, 10, 11 this fall. And we're unique as well that we're one of the only, as far as I know, the only national league that plays the full European international standard calendar. So we start in August, we end in May with like a winter break. So when you think of like how La Liga and Premier League are structured, we run a 10-month season as well. The same calendar that MLS is switching to here.
Right. So this is such an interesting thing, because I think the American soccer mentality, if you're certainly thinking top down, has always been, American soccer happens from late winter, early spring through the fall. And it's been that way since the NASL days. And certainly that's the beginning of modern soccer in America. So why did the APSL decide to go with the traditional European style calendar?
Yeah, so that's how a lot of the leagues in the Northeast that the APSL was founded off of, that's how their calendar was structured. And ultimately, like, we wanted to follow the international standard and follow that calendar, because that's how every other country in the world is running it. And we want to follow a lot of things off of that. We think that the world does soccer, frankly, in most cases better than the US, and following that's the best way to kind of raise to the top. I am not the APSL resident expert on the international calendar for sure. There's other people who can speak to it better than me, but that's the basis of the reasoning.
Yeah. So what kind of players inhabit these clubs and these teams? If you're playing, through the college school year, that kind of probably eliminates a good deal of like kind of the talent pool that typically inhabits amateur leagues. Like, where are you pulling players from if you're riding that schedule?
Yeah, a lot of post grads, a lot of players that play D1, D2, and are now looking for a place to play. That's common. A lot of people who are coming from playing pro before and now want to go to something that's still competitive, but more local. They don't have to travel as much. And then we are getting a lot of especially in the spring half of the season, we are getting a lot of emerging college players as well, because they don't have as busy of a schedule then. Obviously, this college schedule is potentially changing in the future, as I'm sure you guys know. So that could change, but that's going to affect all leagues beyond just ours. And that goes back to the sustainable point. Like, we try to endorse and help build clubs and give them an environment where they are playing, more than just a 6-7 game summer season. They're playing, our standard match schedule is 22. With the winter break. So, and there's cups and our teams participating in Open Cup and National Amateur Cup. And like that allows them to be able to compete against the teams of higher quality that are playing year-round schedule. Like, even though the USL ones and the USL championships and the MLS of the world, they are playing from March until November. They're still way more year round than a lot of the other summer leagues in our space. So
I imagine that there are players that are, bouncing between teams based on season. I mean, I think that's probably part of the story here, which is interesting to me. The other thing that I was just thinking about, you said sustainability. Can you define that for us? Keep it remedial, because I think people would think, okay, what does that mean exactly?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be frank, of any national league across the country, we have the lowest annual fees. It's just a fact. Our usual annual league dues are $1,500, which pales in comparison with, just some of the other leagues, especially some of the ones that are summer only, and the space they're covering. So that, as a starting point, we try to keep costs as low as possible. We're a nonprofit. Everything right now for the league is done through part-time employees and volunteers. So there's no investors' pockets we're trying to fund. And that reflects on how the due structure is for the clubs as well. Like, I run a club as well in the system. It's affordable. It's, you're able to get your feet wet, compete at a level, especially for conferences that have filled. When we talk about sustainability, we don't want clubs that come in and burn out after a couple of years. That's not the goal. We want to help endorse clubs to be around for 10, 15 years. My club is 11 years old now. A lot of the reason for that is because we're able to play in leagues that haven't really burned our pockets out. And for the conferences that are full, as you're going to see happen in Michigan really soon, as they're about to reach the cap, we cap our conferences because our goal is to let the local leagues flourish beneath. When I talk about that pro-rel connection, it's important because in an area that conference is capped, teams have to start in the affiliate league below, and they have to get promoted through our system. So ultimately, that builds sustainability too, because teams are jumping into a level that they're not prepared for, or maybe they're able to buy their way in the beginning in another league. And once that money's gone, then all the players go and the club folds. But if they're having players work their way up through the system and get promoted based on merit, then when they get to the level of the APSL, they're more prepared to have a prolonged run instead of burning out after a couple of years. So I think there's a few factors of it, but the main thing is really just for the conferences that are capped, allowing them to build and get better, and then get promoted. We've had several promoted teams, and then just the fee structure too.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I got to give you kudos. You mentioned the fees to get into the APSL, and I think you're the first league I've actually seen with the fees and the prize money listed publicly on the website, which is an interesting thing to notice. But you said that to join the APSL, you'd have to start lower. So are those partnerships already put in place, like the MPSL in Michigan, for example? Have you already made those connections? And is the end goal of this to try to be ambassadors and connect all of the leagues at that D4 amateur league?
All the local leagues. So there's a market difference between the APSL. We see ourselves as the perfect national brand, unite all these leagues. When we talk about all these leagues, we're talking about local leagues. So yes, like the MPSL, or in the Northeast, like the Cosmopolitan League or CASA, or the ADASL in Atlanta. So some of the areas have affiliate partnerships set up. Some don't yet. Some of the conferences are still reaching capacity. Some are at capacity. So let's talk about Michigan, for example. We've gotten the 10 teams there fairly quickly with a lot of local support. We have an official agreement with the MPSL. And the basis of that agreement, really, they are running independently. And the only thing that we have tied to us is that at the end of their calendar season and ours, they promote a team. And then when we get the cap, we relegate back the other way. There's not a takeover at all by any means. They're still running independently. I also run an affiliate league that's part of the system too. So I see both sides of things, where I'm running an affiliate league, and I'm also helping out the APSL. But it's a way for it protects the local league, where their teams that want to raise to the top can do it through promotion, and they're not losing teams when they do so, because we're sending teams back the other way. So,
okay. I want to bring in a question from the chat. This is from Yuri. He says, if the league itself wants to grow, increase the level of its product, how does it plan to do that? What's the marketing budget, for example? Can you give us a dollar amount? No, I'm kidding. No, but to the question though, I mean, I guess, I'm an American, and it's really hard for me to sort of cap my thinking and be like, okay, that's it. That's good where we're at. We all accept our role here. your brain goes into, how does this grow? How does this get bigger? What does it mean for the future in a country as vast and as complicated as ours when it comes to this sport? And as much as we all think we are underneath our potential or performing below our potential, connecting all this stuff and having it press upwards in a significant way is something I can't get away from. Where does APSL fit into that? And to Yuri's point, like, what is the growth potential or desire for the league?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of growth potential for this model, as we've seen. In the at our level and what we're trying to do right now, it's really about connecting as many conferences as possible and also getting local leagues involved. And we're really building from the ground up. So once we have that built, then it's like, okay, where can we take above that? But right now, focus is on opening as many conferences in different cities and suburban areas across the U.S. as possible. It makes sense. I mean, ultimately, like I said, the big thing is conference caps. So we don't just open a conference for the sake of it, right? We want to make sure that the area that it's in can support the level of teams that we need. And ultimately, we want to make sure there's a local league as well that we can tie in and benefit to our system. So we're looking to create those relationships. I mean, what the marketing plan looks like, it's something I go through on a daily basis. We've been doing a lot more on social media. We're also going to be doing a lot more on the web, just making sure our digital marketing presence is there, updating the website, all those simple things, increasing visibility and making sure people are seeing the right points. Like I'm glad you brought up the fact that our prize money and fees are public. Like everything's transparent with us. Everything is on the website. There's no NDA to access this. We're actually in the process of creating a handbook right now, so it's in a bit more concise format, but that'll still be public on the website. Really attractive prize pool, by the way, too, because we're not paying any investors. A lot of the money that teams pay goes straight back into prize money. So it is unique in that we don't just pull a lot of money towards the winner. We try to divide it amongst multiple tiers, if you will. So teams, by winning the conference or winning the region, they're getting a sizable chunk of money and, getting back their fee and more from just that alone, rather than holding out for a $50,000 prize. And then if they lose that match, they've just spent $30,000 to get there. So
I also want to ask about, again, sort of a dumb guy top-down view. One thing that always strikes me about this level is league hopping, that clubs are always kind of bouncing between leagues. I mean, we've just talked recently about how many clubs are leaving NPSL to go join different leagues, and Midwest Premier League is exploding. And obviously APSL is in this same world. So is poaching clubs part of the deal, for lack of a better way of describing it? And sort of like, how do you view that issue of clubs at this level are always going, well, that's a better league for us this year, and then, oh no, that one stinks, so going back to this other one the year after? Because how do people who care about the game and potential fans who might want to support a club at this level, how do they get their bearings?
Yeah, it definitely happens all the time, for sure. And I think a lot of it too, like you said, is teams realizing, hey, like this is a better fit for us than this. We have a lot of teams reach out to us directly because they discuss pain points that they see in their current situation or ways they want to improve. A lot of times where it's like, where they're coming from a local league, and they want to move up, it's actually like, sometimes it's refreshing to be like, hey, look, like we have a partnership with this local league, right? Earn your way up. Like the conference is capped right now. Everybody that's here has earned their spot. Move up to that. And then, obviously there's movement between one national league to the other. We have clubs that will play in multiple leagues. Like a lot of our clubs play in a summer league too, right? Like a USL2, because we're full spring, and that's totally fine. It happens. But I think just like, it's a reality of it, unfortunately, because US soccer hasn't set a precedent for where each league lies in that tier. You're going to have a lot of club poaching and also like, clubs jumping back and forth.
Okay, so you bring up something that always gets mentioned here, and this is a regular part of our Discord. So if you're an ultra, this conversation, and it seems to me to be there are some people who say U.S. soccer's got to step in, they've got to organize this, and they've got to take control of this situation, and we've got to figure out what D4 looks like. And then there might be other people who say, well, first of all, U.S. soccer's power is limited when it comes to restraint of trade problems that they've run into in the past. And in general, do you really want the Fed directing traffic at this level? Is that something that would be good for this level? And I guess, Nolan, you can give us a viewpoint on that.
Yeah, it depends. It depends who ends up on top, right? Like that's what it's all about. And it's a very interesting situation. I'll say that for sure. I don't know if it's ever something that will be rectified. I mean, some people on our side love saying there is no fourth tier. Technically, it doesn't exist. It's never been defined, right? It's the Wild West.
And that's freedom on some level, even as it's kind of, again, disorienting for a lot of soccer fans.
For sure, for sure. I think for us, the best thing we can do is just try to connect the local leagues into some semblance of a pyramid from below ground up. And then what we can do above that, we'll see. But, you know, a lot of it is just at the discretion of U.S. Soccer and what they decide to do. I don't know if they'll ever step in. There's a lot of politics involved, right? And you're going to ultimately put one league down and keep another league up. And it's going to fall back on standards too. So that's why we try to make sure that we have, you know, the cream of the crop participating in APSL, and then we have other leagues beneath that to help sort out who gets there. So kind of prepare us in case U.S. Soccer ever decides to step in.
Very interesting stuff. APSL got games going on this weekend, so check out the website if you live in one of the many new areas or existing areas for the APSL. We got another question here.
Yeah, this is Callan who's saying, I'm on the APSL site. Most of the teams have nothing to indicate location, which I'm cool with the freedom to name your club whatever you want. But he wants to know, how does he find out if one's near him? What's the method for that?
Yeah, no. So I don't believe at the moment we have locations pinned to teams. Each conference has its own table set up, etc. I think that's a great point. I think it's something that we can look to incorporate over time. We are unique in how we name our conferences. We do not name our conferences just like after a state or a city. We try to be a bit more creative with that. So if you go and look at the tables, right, Metropolitan Conference, Mayflower Conference, Delaware River. So I think like when you look at it, it's not going to jump off. I mean, Mid-Atlantic's kind of obvious. That's a very regional one. But yeah, I think it's a fair point. I think over time, you know, we like to, when we release a conference, right, you probably seen, if you look at our socials, we put out a map showing where the clubs are and where everything's located. But I think on the website, definitely could do a bit more to highlight where some of these areas are. So fair point.
Well, interesting stuff there, and interesting. I'm interested to see how the balance of low fees and then how the work with the balance with the oversight. You know, some teams, you know, lead to that club hopping because they pay fees, but they don't feel like they get the oversight or the support from the league, and then vice versa. Like, you know, you said a lot of the divisions and the conferences are self-governing. So I'm interested in how that balance is struck, how APSL progresses. But I also got to say, respect the grind. I think you referenced you working for a club and 2 different leagues. So putting in the work there, Nolan, and I appreciate it. And thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kick Round and explaining and, you know, illuminating APSL for us here on the show.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Rob. This is great. Thanks for the time.
All right. Thank you, Ultras, for jumping in the chat there. We have one more segment to go here on Friday's live show. Let's move right along and talk about the juiciest round 3 matchups of the U.S. Open Cup. Next up here on Morning Kick Round. U.S. Open Cup Round 2 is in the rearview mirror after an action-packed week across the various kinds of fields and stadia in the United States. We're going to look ahead now to Round 3 as Major League Soccer clubs step into the fray, and looking at these matchups that are going to be happening and played out on April 14th and 15th. There's a few juicy ones. Is there any that catch your eye, Mr. Davis?
Well, let's throw them up on the screen so we can see what we got going on here. So coming up, as you said, in this next round, New England Revolution against Rhode Island FC at Centerville Bank Stadium in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, a place that we will be. We have now booked our travel, ready to go. May 9th, we will be on site. So look for that. But I'm actually, I'm if I'm not mistaken, this game, despite the fact that it is happening in Pawtucket, is actually a New England Revolution home match. Is that right, Rob?
Well, I was going to say, I wasn't sure if this graphic is just mixed up because where they have the home teams forward and back, but you might be right because, you know, Revolution is listed first, but the location is listed as Pawtucket. So I think you got something there.
Yeah, I think my guy, Thomas Pinzon, who is part of the Blazing Musket crew, was talking about this. So again, the New England Revolution will host Rhode Island FC in the round of 32 in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. The match will take place at Centerville Bank Stadium on April 14th or 15th. We know it's April 14th now. Gillette Stadium was not available. New England is the home team in Rhode Island.
That's so wild. That's so wild.
And Thomas is saying this is an absolutely massively embarrassing situation for the Revs. It's 10 times more pathetically stupid than being the away team at Gillette in the League's Cup a few years back. What a complete joke. They want this team to be taken seriously, and then they do bleep like this. Amazing. I've already cursed on the show. I don't know why I bleep myself, but yeah, shout out to Thomas, who is obviously taking it to his hometown team up there in New England. All right. That one's interesting. New England versus New England, obviously. And you do have, the location-based situation kind of applies to this round, if I'm not mistaken. Louisville and Austin. So that one happening in Louisville. We got Detroit, Chicago. That's the Rob Kerr special. That's the derby match right there, Detroit City FC and Chicago. And I even saw some people in my besties community for the Best Soccer Show saying they'd love to go to Detroit and heckle Greg Berhalter from the sidelines.
Yeah, see, having Greg Berhalter in Hamtramck, Michigan at the Keyworth Stadium is going to be quite the sight. When they had the different pools picked out in one of my OCFC chat, I asked, who do we want to come to town to Metro Detroit and into Hamtramck specifically for this Open Cup game? And Fire was hands down the pick, and that's who it ended up turning out to be. DCFC getting through the second round with a lone goal over the Flint City Bucks midweek. Former Oakland County FC player Alex DeLue with the winner. Shout out to Alex. But excited to see the Fire come into town. I'd say one of the most fun and memorable games for Detroit was when the Columbus Crew came into town and DCFC came out on top. That was quite the day in Hamtramck. So interesting to see what this Fire team can bring.
So you got Midwest versus Midwest there. We've got a New York matchup, Westchester, north of New York City, taking on NYCFC at Mount Vernon Memorial Field in Mount Vernon, New York. So that'll be an interesting trip for the MLS side.
Yeah.
Colorado Springs Switchbacks hosting Sporting Kansas City. Colorado hosting Omaha. That one's interesting. Oh, I like that one. Omaha progressing to this round. Colorado, they get home field advantage. Sacramento Republic, who famously made a final, the last lower division team to do that, they get Minnesota United at Hart Health Park in Sacramento. I'll be pulling for my hometown team, Sacramento Republic, a team that is trying to make some big waves with their stadium plans, which we've talked about on this show recently. Moving on to the Wednesday matches, that is Naples versus Orlando. That's interesting, a Florida matchup, Rob.
Yeah, Cantor was making a big deal about that on Golazo the other day. He was more than excited to draw Orlando to is that to come to Naples there?
Yes.
That's big time.
That game in Naples, that one should be interesting. You've got that is Chattanooga versus Atlanta United at Finley Stadium, Chattanooga SC. So that's one FC, excuse me, Chattanooga FC. That one's fascinating. That's not a long trip, I don't think, for Atlanta fans who might want to go to Chattanooga. You've got Richmond hosting Columbus. I saw some Columbus fans bitching about it just because it's just they think it's hard to get to Richmond. You can't just fly into Richmond and you got to drive to DC and then down, and it is not a straight shot from Columbus, right? As the crow flies, it's not that far, but as you drive the interstate system of America, it is a bit of a trip. I'm a fan of Richmond, Virginia as a town. The Kickers are the oldest continuing operating professional team we've got left, I think.
I believe that's true, and they're the last operating non-MLS team to win this competition.
That is true. That is not true. No, that is not true. The Rochester Rhinos
They're not operating.
Oh, operating. I'm sorry. You threw a caveat in there. I missed, Rob. Yes, congratulations. That was correct. You're technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. Red Bulls against Pittsburgh in Harrison, New Jersey. Throngs of not dozens of people will be there for that game, I would guess. Most of them dressed in the yellow and black of Pittsburgh is probably what's going to happen. I'm sorry, Red Bulls. You do it to yourselves. Yeah. That is interesting. That's the defending USL Championship champions up against the Red Bulls. Charlotte hosting. Wait, Charlotte? Is that what Charlotte hosting?
Do we
Charlotte?
have another home away from home situation here? The Mecklenburg County Sportsplex in Matthews, North Carolina, for Charlotte versus Charlotte Independence. What is going on with that? Is that where do Charlotte Independence play? Is it a home in the visitors' home, or is this just like a third party situation going on here?
So third party. So third. No, this is a third location because obviously Charlotte FC plays in the big joint Bank of America Stadium. Charlotte Independence play at American Legion Memorial Stadium in Charlotte. So I'm assuming this is just Charlotte FC taking their game to their other auxiliary location because they're not going to play it in the big joint, which again, let's stop doing that. I know you don't make American Stadium seat 65,000 or whatever, and you're not going to get that for an Open Cup game, but come on, try something. Like, give us something. We don't have any NFL going on right now. What the hell? DC United versus Knoxville. That one's at Audi Field, so that one's not at like the Sportsplex out in Boyd's, Maryland or something. St. Louis will take on Tulsa. Shout out to our man Tulsa Mario. Wonder if he's going to make that trip. Houston gets the El Paso Locomotive, and the Quakes get Phoenix Rising at PayPal Park. Which one stands out for you?
On here, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the Mecklenburg Sportsplex thing. But as far as these matchups,
to your point, because our guy American Groundhopper says Matthews and that Sportsplex is a part-time home for the Independents, so they probably have used it, and I believe they are. I don't know the geography enough, but that's Mecklenburg County, right? So yeah, there you go.
So on this second page, my pick of the litter would be Chattanooga FC hosting Atlanta United. Chattanooga, a long storied independent team, kind of one of the leaders in the independent soccer club movement of the last 15 to 20 years. And to see them play against a big budget Major League Soccer team and have them come there, that's exciting. That's quote unquote magic of the cup, right? That's what we like to see in this competition, FA Cup, when the big boys with their, their nice bus, their nice handbags of changing gear and stuff, stepping off the bus into, less than pristine or, first division standard things that they're used to is always interesting to see. And I'm not sure, does Charlotte or does Chattanooga have football lines? Or are they all soccer lines in Chattanooga? I'm trying to think.
Finley Stadium in Chattanooga. Do they have? No, I don't think they have. I mean, we're in April, Rob. There shouldn't be any. I mean, is it artificial turf? Yeah, maybe it's artificial.
It is artificial turf there because remember there was in the Chattanooga Derby last year there was a flag planting, but that was difficult because it's
I think you're right. I think they're football lines, which is always a drag, always a bummer. But what are we gonna do?
That's the magic of the cup. The pro teams. Imagine there's some South American players and stuff like that. Having to navigate what line to play on. Even American players that are used to it. I've seen it at USL 2 level, not know which end line or sideline that they're playing on. But that's my pick. Can't wait to see the Chicago Fire visit Detroit and then seeing Atlanta toot up to Chattanooga. It's going to be pretty cool to see in the third round of the U.S. Open Cup. What do you got next?
No, I think we got to finish up here, Rob. We got to get out of here. Unfortunately, it's one of those days where there's no extra time for your friend Jason. So we got to wrap this thing up. Let's put a bow on it.
All right. Another shout out to the River Guard and all those fans heading out to Boise for Boise, AC Boise, rather. I just lost it there. AC Boise's home debut, their new rehab stadium.
It deserves this, Rob. It deserves it right here.
Home opener clang.
Playing for Boise.
Yeah, and we'll talk to league or club leaders on Monday about how that all plays out tomorrow in Boise. But couldn't be more excited for you guys, and it's going to be exciting times out there in Boise. And in I think that does it for us as it stands now. I won't be live next week, but the show will go on. So busy weekend of soccer ahead. So everybody take it in, enjoy it. I think it's about time to retire the stay warm part. Is everyone feeling warmer out there?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be 80-something degrees here in D.C. today. What are you talking about, Rob?
All right.
We're going shorts now. It's shorts weather. It just happened like that.
Yeah, we're into the good season. So everyone be cool, stay brave, and enjoy your soccer.